Хорошо. Хорошо. Ага. А то на кем документ?
Recording in progress.
Açı mi hatın solun renk göster? He? Aha, aha onu kastan kirin.
Recording.
Добрый день, уважаемые.
Good afternoon. Good day to you, wherever you are. The participants of the Roundtable Women in the Arctic, held within the Northeastern Forum. Please, dear participants of the Roundtable, turn off your microphones and turn on your video cameras, if possible. Our forum, our roundtable is held within the Northern Forum of Sustainable Development. This event is held by the Northern Forum in partnership with the Association of Women of the Arctic, led by our Olga Starostina, the head of the interregional organization Women of the Arctic. Our roundtable is held traditionally annually. A year ago, we have met on this platform, and we had recommendations of our roundtable, and our recommendations were included in the resolution of the Northern Forum held in 2020. Today, our roundtable, we decided to hold our roundtable so we are going to discuss the impacts of the pandemic on the life of the women in the Arctic. The participants of our so they are entrepreneurs, different representatives of the educational and other societies, as well as ministries. Today, we are going to discuss such issues as the aspects of the pandemic and its impact on the women of the Arctic region, issues connected with of the medical and sanitary help, impact in the Arctic, the health of women, healthcare, female healthcare in the North, social practices of the medical organizations. And cooperation with international organizations. Allow me to give the word to Starostina Olga, our head. And I would like to remind you that all of the participants should speak for 7 minutes. Please prepare. Ivanova Elena Stepanovna, the head of the Alynuk region, and the head of the regional Association of Women in the Arctic. So, Olga Valentinovna, the word goes to you. Thank you, Angelika Yegorovna. Can you hear me? I am happy to see all the participants of our roundtable. It's a great tradition that we have here today. We are taking part again in this very large Northern Forum, and the role of our participation in such an event is very important. And I am happy to all of our friends for participating in this event. And the topic that will be discussed today is a very feasible one. And in the context of the pandemic and the challenges that we have met so far and haven't met before, and the women in the north, in the Arctic regions, are facing these challenges. We have many interesting and different topics. I think they will be continued outside of this platform within the scope of all the events which are going to be held on this topic. And this topic is health and healthcare, health of the family, children, women, all included. I hope that all the participants will take part in the session. So I wish you to have a great session. Bye-bye. Thank you, Olga Valentinovna. And I believe that we will have a very important event. This is the Russian Women's Forum in St. Petersburg, and I believe that there will be a large roundtable held focusing on the problems and issues of the North and the women in the Arctic. Allow me to give the floor to Ivanova Yelena Stepanovna. She's the head of the Alanok region in the Arctic, and she's the head of the inter-regional organization, Women in the Arctic. Good day, dear Olga Valentina and fellow women. It is a pleasure to meet you again on this platform, on the Northern Forum platform, which is held annually in Yakutsk in September. This year, the program of the Northern Forum is diverse. And of course, who but not us should make our voices heard in the international platform. And I fully agree with Olga Valentinovna in the aspect that this year, the importance of this topic, such as health and healthcare of all the people in the Arctic, and especially women, it is very important. And in the North, the relationship to health is very, very important. And every person should be healthy. Due to the fact that in our region, there's an intensive industrial development, the head of the Alinok region, Alexander Ivanov, in partnership with Evgenia Mikhailova, the former rector of the Northeastern Federal University, they made a decision to study and analyze the condition, the health condition of the people living in the region. In that time period, in the region where there are over 700 people, it was necessary to begin developing the Taptansk region, which contains metals, a lot of precious metals. And this is a very important, strategically important project, which will further help to develop the space development mission. But at the same time, there's a lot of radioactivity coming from this deposit, and within that time period, we have studied and analyzed the health condition of the people living in this region, and we have carried out a large-scale work on the study of rare metals and their effects on the healthcare of the person. This research work was held and carried out by the scientific workers, researchers of the Northeastern Federal University. We are continuing this work. We are continuing to monitor the conditions, and I ask the participants of this round table to speak out openly, because health and healthcare of each person is unique, and we need to protect each person living in the Arctic, because there are few of us already, and if we fall under the pitfall of the industrial development, under the pitfall of urbanization, the changes in the lifestyle, the eating habits, all of these factors, we need to study them, and their impact on the people living in the Arctic, how harmful they are to us. And that's why, dear guests, dear friends, we hope that we will have a productive discussion. I'm happy to welcome all of you here in this session. I see a lot of people that I know already, a lot of famous faces and names. We hope that you will have a great session. Together, Angelika Igorevna and I, we have gathered at our office, representation office, because we wanted to, as representatives of the local administration and the region where the people of the Arctic live, this is the perfect platform to speak out. So we are going live from our office. Of course, we have this really funny non-official background, but that's okay. Nevertheless, we will have a productive discussion. Thank you so much, Lydia Stepanovna. I'm so sorry I forgot to introduce myself. We have 3 moderators. My name is Angelika Andreeva. I am the chair of the society, the Women's Society of the Republic of Sakha-Yakutia, and together with me is Yelena Stepanovna and Olga Dmitrieva, 3 people who are forming the structure of the Women's Society, and those who are taking part in the session. And now I'm going to give the floor to Tatiana Basheva, and our first psychologist and the representative from the NENETS autonomous region. And Suslova, Yelena, please prepare to give your talk after this. Dear women, beautiful women of the Arctic, we are very similar to, we even look similar. And I think that especially the people from the north, they have this very natural and beautiful flair. And I would like to tell a few words about our region. It is unique in terms of its geographical position. It is surrounded by 3 seas, the Barents, Karsk, and White Sea. And it covers more than 4,000 square kilometers. And there's a high density population. There's only 44,000 people living here. So there's 4 kilometers for 1 person. So the question is, do we need to preserve ourselves if there's so little, or if we are so little in number? We need to live on our territory, on our land, and we would like to make our voices heard on the governmental level for us to be heard just as much as the people in Moscow are heard. Because I would like to say a few words about the health of the children. The things that I will tell you about are not new for you. To you, we are in the circumpolar zone, and the people in the Nenets autonomous region is beyond the polar circle. Everyone knows what a polar syndrome is and how it affects our children, especially in the teenage years. And of course, many functional systems of the human body struggle because of this, and it is very important that after this after these problems in the physical status, we have psychological problems, depressions, open and passive aggressiveness, and then they become aggressive in their older age. That's why, of course, special attention is given to our regions, but I would like to point out the following. For over 40 years, I have been working with kids, and there have been thousands and thousands of researches on the conditions, on the health conditions of the people, of the children, and living in this region. The Institute of Chemistry has studied the children, and the majority of children are in the health risk because there's a large distance between biological and the calendar age. There were many dissertations and thesis dissertations defended on the topic. However, even though there's a problem, nobody uses metabolites because on the federal level, there's no law justifying the fact that they are possible to take. We are also studying the state of the endocrine system, which would allow us to adapt the schedule, the education schedule. We would limit or minimize the factors which affect their health due to the geographical and climatic position of the region. And at the end of the 90s, there was an experiment in all the Russian schools, including the north. It followed the Bazarny methodology. There was so there were other programs issued. However, they are not very specific, which would focus on the special psychological conditions of the children living in the north, including our elderly population. We have held many and many research works, but today our goal is to say stop it, and we need to generalize overview what we have already done. In 2015, we have created the Institute of Complex Arctic Studies, and one of the trends is to study the health of the children and the health of the people living in the north. On a federal scale, we need to decide. Let's launch a program of the children of the north, the children of the far north, for us to unite our academic and research forces and to find a solution, a reasonable solution, urgent solutions and help to our children, because the life expectancy within the past years is not increasing. The coronavirus situation also decreased the population. Any attempts to help the regions, they are all local, mosaic, and they are not helping to form the general picture. So today we had the State Duma elections, and I hope that the right people have entered the local State Duma, and we would like to ask to create a program, to help create a program which existed at the end of the 90s but was pointless methodologically, for us not to lose time, because with each decade, there's an increasing risk of hazardous environmental conditions. We are losing possibilities, but we have large resources. We want these investments into the children of the Arctic to be available and for our country to be proud of us. I think we should be proud of the fact that the government is paying attention to us. To conclude my talk, I would like to say that we are not just simply generalizing some problems. Olga Valentina is the initiator and organizer of our organization. In 2018, we have launched a joint project with United Russia and promoted a national program on vitamin D. Here it is, like the booklet. And we made a booklet together in partnership with medical experts, and we have thoroughly studied the topic. We prepared booklets with the help of United Russia, and within 2 months period, we have done a survey among 1,000, more than 1,000, thousands and thousands of people who are representatives of large families, and we have learned that a lot of people practice self-treatment. People do not know who to refer to, and the level of using vitamin B was very low. We know that rachitis is a serious problem. We have begun some surveys, and people say to us that we have been taking vitamin D for the past 4 years. Thank you. This is helping us, and it is making our health and the health of our children improve. So we have done a lot of things, and we have some results of this work, but we would like to reach those people who can help us promote these ideas in co-joined forces to protect the children of the Arctic and the children of Russia in general. Thank you for your attention.
Татьяна Ефимовна, мы
Okay, Tatiana, we agree with all of your points made on the creation and on the mechanisms of initiating such a program. This program is developed, created. This project, the Children of the Arctic, is part of the is part of the cultural development program. It is part of the state cultural development program of the Arctic. And we have specific requirements from the Prime Minister of the Russian Federation to enhance the regions of the Arctic. When I looked at this program, I saw that there's a development of the educational sphere, improving the children's health in special recreational areas. But unfortunately, such a global, like you mentioned, a global scale healthcare support system, there isn't such a system. So we need to understand the situation in general and to make our voices heard and to promote this program on a federal level. This program is coordinated by the Ministry of the Arctic of the Russian Federation. Thank you very much. This is a great presentation. Thank you, Lena Stepanovna. And now I would like to give the word to Suslova Yelena Viktorovna, the head of the Cultural Center, Cultural Education Center. And Yegorova Irina Vladimirovna, please prepare for your speech, for your talk.
Елена Юрьевна, вы нас слышите?
Елена Юрьевна, can you hear us?
Прошу прощения.
I'm sorry. Елена Юрьевna is not available right now for some reason. So the word goes to Yegorova Irina. She's the head of the recreation center in Volgorodskaya Oblast. Belich Ida, please prepare for your talk. Irina Vladimirovna, hello. Hello, I can hear you. I'm very glad to welcome everybody. I would like to stress the attention to the fact that in our region has such important aspects and problems as the fact that we have some contamination dirts.
Это уникальное природное лекарство, не имеющее аналогов в мире. Содержит соли, микроэлементы, химические вещества и микроорганизмы. Рапаузероэльтон – это солевой осадок, который возникает вследствие выпаривания воды в жаркое время года. Балеологическая ценность заключается в высокой концентрации солей. Бишофиты, которые в чистом виде широко используются при лечении многих заболеваний.
So these salts are used to cure the people's health, and when we use these special dirts, when we use these special substances, we help to cure some skin illnesses, and we also have a post-rehab program in our center. We have hygienic rehabilitation center. We have cosmetological. Yeah. Our Elton dirt is an oil-like substance, dense in its structure. It has a CO4 smell. It has the necessary ferments, hormones, and salts, which are created when we reproduce the microorganisms. This is what we can tell about our special healing grease. So we also use massage techniques. These massage grease technologies have a large scale of its application. It is aimed at improving the joints system work. This grease helps to regenerate and revitalize the skin. We have a tampon-shaped healing grease. So the doctors usually recommend these grease tampons when there's a problem with the reproductive organs and other illnesses connected with that, some hormonal disbalances, and other female problems with connected with strictly female health. There's a galvanic grease treatment. It's a treatment when there's a galvanic electricity combined with health grease, with our health grease. It's a technology that is used in our center. So this grease helps to improve the cardiovascular system. And the microelements interpenetrate the organism, and they promote skin regeneration, improves the intravascular processes of the central nervous system. It also helps to avoid any inflammations and other skin illnesses. And also illnesses connected with the spinal cord. So you can use it to heal the spinal cord illnesses, any illnesses connected with the brain activity, some skin illnesses, psoriasis, eczema, and any illnesses connected with the female organs illnesses. Among the typical procedures is the massage, and we have a large scope of medical services. We hold the ultrasound examinations, but of course, for us to use our procedures, we need you to consult your doctor first. Every person, every potential client, patient should consult the doctor first, because this grease has a very large scope of effects, and we need to be sure that you're suitable for this treatment. Thank you very much. There are many questions. We have a special program on the post-COVID rehab, and it is aimed at the breathing system and the lung system improvement and treatment. This program includes 6 procedures. The typical procedure holds 6 treatments, kinds of treatment, and the post-COVID has more than 6 forms of treatment. So we have a WhatsApp group, and please show us your Instagram, post us your Instagram there, and we will cooperate on this topic. Yeah. Thank you very much. Allow me to give the word to Ida Bilich. She's the expert and methodologist of the Republic of Sakha-Yakutia and the representative of the Agency of Social Initiatives. And please, Ruslanova Yelena Leonidovna, prepare to give a talk.
Ида Афанасьевна, вы нас слышите?
Дорогие женщины Арктики,
women in the Arctic, participants of this roundtable, I want to greet you, and we work in this field of prevention of the diseases. I have a presentation, please turn it on. I'm a neurologist, and I have been all over the Republic. I'm very glad to see people that I know. To be healthy and to have a healthy lifestyle, we need healthy habits. And these habits are formed before 12 years. There is not such a good statistics, but now the big problems occur in the elementary school because the school system is formed that way that the children's abstract mind is not developed, but the logic mind. So if you're interested in this field, you can, we have a lot of programs in this field. And I would like to say, I would like to tell you about the healthy habits. Our brain has certain programs. They are called beliefs. And according to these beliefs, our organism acts as it acts. And we have these beliefs from the childhood. For example, healthy food, avoiding bad habits. Please turn on my presentation. So there's a table in my presentation.
Презентацию включаете, да? Очень хороший ученый жил у нас в России.
Very bright scientists in Russia and the Soviet Union. Next slide, please.
И вот я хочу сказать, что на самом деле мы вот на этом стадии можно остановиться, где органы чувств. На самом деле информацию только через 5
So we perceive information through 5 senses: sight, hearing, taste, smell, touch, and
значит, впечатление не создаем. На слух впечатление, на вкус впечатление.
If we don't create impression by hearing, sight, then we won't have good, healthy habits. Us adults should be careful with the impressions that we create. The scientist Shishko, Soviet physiologist, created this table. So we make an example for our children, and our bad habits have an impact on our children. Also, the advertising has an impact on them. And if we won't stop given these bad habits, then it will become worse and worse.
Вот. И тут я попробовала, значит, как смогла сделать лестницу
And I tried to have a table of good habits. We are forming beliefs in our children by our example. We make an impression of good habits.
Каким полезным привычкам мы приобщаем. Ладно, этот мозг давайте дальше. Про убеждения я уже рассказала, что от убеждений зависит. Вот, например, у нас есть такая
программа. We have the Clean Environment Project. The purpose of the project is to show children to preserve the nature, because otherwise children won't have habit to preserve their health if they don't preserve the nature. So we have a voluntary work with children.
Можно здесь быстрее показать. Можно дальше показать. Можно дальше показать.
Next slide, please. So we also had the project with the Women Union, and mothers were trained in creating good habits. A lot of mothers participated in this project.
И вот так вот потихоньку, помаленьку мы вовлекаем. Идея наша такая, что мы вовлекаем мам, обучаем.
Our idea is to educate mothers and give them skills, and then mothers give these skills to their children, and these children will have healthy habits in their future.
О другом проекте. И у нас был очень интересный проект.
And another project called
молодая мама придумала
Health Club.
Вот.
It was created by a young mother.
Плохо слышно.
Плохо слышно.
Sorry, there is no sound. So on this slide, you can see the medical education project. For the implementation of this project,
Плохо слышно то, что говорят в ролике.
Ага. Вот я хочу рассказать о последнем проекте. Это проект называется...
The last project is called the health club, which shows 3 diseases, neurological diseases, because they are in the first place in mortality rate. Our scientists made research of our population. Parodontosis is a big problem here, even among the young people.
Кстати, вот эта патология, оно впоследствии вызывает потерю зубов. Но
this pathology leads to the loss of teeth. But this disease actually can be cured very easily.
Поэтому у нас высококвалифицированные
That's why
ведут консультации
we have high qualified consultants. So we invite everyone to participate in it. We also do the sports courses in the park for prevention the overweight.
Дипломом проведет нам курс по профилактике лишнего веса. Если вы позволите, я вам скину
I will send you
ссылку на группу
the links for the Facebook group.
Спасибо,
Thank you for your attention. And if you're interested in it, we are very open to cooperation in prevention of diseases, in educational projects for parents, and for social projects. Our organization works in this direction. We help other organizations to improve their projects. Please welcome to our projects. Thank you. Thank you very much, Lydia Afanasievna, Ida Afanasievna. This is really professional professional in seeking help in financial funds, and she can help you to write to these funds to get financing for your projects. Thank you very much. And let me give the floor to Arslanova Elena Leonidovna, gynecologist of the highest category and doctor organizer of healthcare of the highest category, deputy chief physician of the Severodvinsk City Hospital number 1 from Arkhangelsk district.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I'm very happy to take part in this perfect roundtable. Thank you to Olga Valentinovna. I've never been to Yakutia, but it is very interesting for me now seeing that there are so many wonderful women there. And I will also like to ask you to turn on my presentation. And I agree with all the speakers and the colleagues of mine, doctors. And I think they will support me in the point of view that the health of women is very important in the Arctic, especially for the health of children. And I welcome you from the shores of the White Sea. We are also in the far north regions, and all the issues that are being discussed here are also present for our city and the Republic of Yakutia. And so what is the zone of polar climate? We have talked about it today, and I think others will also talk about that. And today we understand that the population, the small population in Nenets Autonomous Okrug and in other regions of the Arctic, it's a very serious situation. When we talk, if we say that the average lifespan in Russia reached about 74, 75 years, then the average lifespan of people in the Arctic is only about 53 years. this is a very serious situation, and there are many these various external factors, including the polar winter, polar night, and the temperature changes, and that we have lack of oxygen and so on. And this also affects the indigenous population and the people who came to live in the north. So what are the risk factors for the health of the northerners? We have already talked about that a little bit. It is the lack of the normal photoperiodicity, that is the long nights, the lack of oxygen in the atmosphere, lack of necessary minerals in water, such as iron, as well as the specific nature of food, because most of the food is imported in the Arctic, and this also affects our health. As for the syndrome of polar stress, my colleague talked about this. This is very serious. This is not really a disease, but these are the gates for various different diseases where we have this stress is firstly manifested in women, first of all, when the people are living far away from the large continent, from the European part of Russia. People are starting to get used to it, and the conditions in which people not only live but also work or are active socially, this also leads to various complications for the human body. First of all, it appears among women. This is the crystal vase that we talked about. After 35 years old, there are more women now, and up to the age of 35, when we are in the reproductive phase, when we are there to reproduce the human population, then the health of women is very problematic at this age. And it's not to five. It's not about two diseases that the women have at this age, but like three or more if they live in the Arctic. If the men are not very stressed in this state, well, no, they are stressed, but they adapt to it like differently, like alcoholism and like depression and so on. Women react to this stress differently because they feel themselves responsible for family, for growing children, for raising children, and they get a lot of responsibility for them. That is why the reproductive potential is failing at many points. So young people in the Arctic or in any other parts of Russia, they have changed physical activity for internet maybe, or computers or something like this, virtual life. And this is not that good. Well, some of them are, of course, doing sports and so on, but quite a lot of young people are still not very active. And the school-age children are less stressed in this regard, but I think there should be programs to resolve the stress for children, for adults, for women, especially for pregnant women, because I want to say that this is our potential, the future of the Arctic, and the future of the Russian Federation. Of course, school children are not that susceptible to this because they're mostly busy in their life. But women, they also have many different sources of stress. However, if many different activities are added to this, it's much better. As for the health of women, there are many problems for the people who live here. These are not only migrants who settled here. The most critical moment is in the years 1 to 10 after immigrating here. This is the failure of the menstruation cycle. This is also a characteristic for the local population as well. There are issues of with pregnancies, there are different diseases, and like women have difficulties when trying to get pregnant, and this is compounding to the issue of low population and so on. And also wanted to say that, well, people already talk about this, the previous speakers, the nutrition in the far north is also a significant factor. First of all, because there are lack of fat soluble vitamins, for example. And if our children, our women, our pregnant women will be able to get more of these vitamins or minerals, it will have been much better. We cannot just compensate all their diseases with just nutrition. That is why we need more programs to support women, to support girls, our future mothers, with special vitamins, well, as a minimum. And I would like to have some kind of a federal program or maybe even a regional program in this regard. And for the women, there is a big problem of overworking, and the women in the Arctic, they have issues with their psyche due to all these stresses. Okay, they can be even more aggressive. And what I also wanted to say is that much issue is in half of all the women living there is the lack of iron. And I also wanted to mention the polar night and polar date. There is the issue due to harsh climatic conditions, and there is also the excessive solar radiation when there is polar days. And this leads to women more than to men is the diseases of eyes. That is why the health of women in the north is not that good, and without the support of state, without the support of the system of healthcare, without the support of society, we will not be able to restore the health of women in the Arctic. So what should we do? So we understand who is guilty, but the question is like, how can we prevent diseases among women? This is the balanced nutrition, first of all, and it should be quite, well, the best possible nutrition characteristic to each region. There should be well, maximum available meat food, like depending on the region. Like in the north, it can be like reindeer meat, and it needs to be lots of fish. It's not like it was in the past where you could only eat fish once a year, but it should be taken, fish should be eaten like as much as possible, maybe like 4-5 times a week. And this, because the fish replenishes different microelements and the tryptophan, the hormone, which is responsible for happiness, and it's very important for women. And maybe iodium as well, in order to balance the hormonal balance in the body. And today we live in the north, and we really want the sun, but also want to point your attention to the fact that we do not always use the vacation time ideally. So people living in the Arctic, especially women, will need to have their vacation in spring or autumn, because it gives more time for the organism, for the body to try and adapt to changes, and it should be this vacation should be as long as possible, because when we move from north to south, it's these sharp changes are not very good, and this also relates to our children, because when we are organizing a children's vacation holidays, we need to understand that yeah, 21 days is good, of course, but we should ensure that the adaptation period should not be more than like half the time of this vacation. And I want to say that we also need to all together to help our women in the Arctic to be healthy and beautiful. Thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this session. Thank you. Thank you very much, Elena Leonidovna, for your perfect presentation with good data and so on. And I think that this kind of presentations should form our recommendations at the end of this roundtable. So if you are in the WhatsApp group, please send us your presentations so we can have them. And now I give the floor to Anna Permякova, and the next speaker is Anna Vasilets. Anna Permякova, Deputy Head of and representative of Best Chekda Sanatorium, coordinator of the Union of Female Organizations of Yakutia for Work with Regions.
Анна Владимировна, пожалуйста, включите микрофон. Вас не слышно.
Добрый вечер, уважаемые участники.
Good evening, dear participants of this roundtable. In 2021, we have the Year of the Health in the Republic of Sakha. And according to the head of the Republic's direction, we so we have a decade of health. Best Chekda is located in Moscow region, in one of the most beautiful places there. In ecologically very clean place. It was found on the initiative of the first president of the Republic of Sakha, Mikhail Nikolaev. This sanatorium has the modern facilities for physical therapy. There are high qualified doctors working there. We have medical and diagnostical and preventive aid. We use natural resources of the Republic of Sakha, muds from Abalach Lake, from Kempendzai Lake. Nowadays we have a program of the sanatorium resort treatment for citizens for after the COVID pandemic, post-COVID healing. And we have
с государственного бюджета республики 50% стоимости путевки возмещается. Продолжительность курса лечения на 14 дней для работников
length of this treatment is
И программы постковид, лечение, реабилитация органов дыхания, продолжительность реабилитации постковидной 18 дней.
We have rehabilitation that duration of it is 18 days, and this is for free. Caring about the health of our family and children is a norm, and we have different discounts.
Продли лето в санатории без чегда. И наш санаторий, мы вплотную представительство сотрудничаем с Союзом женских.
We cooperate with the Women Union.
Саха-Якутия. У нас разработаны проекты оздоровления женщин, женщины, общественницы, председатели
projects for
улусных, районных. Она часто ездит согласно данного проекта матери многодетные, матери героини и многодетные мамочки. Ведь здоровая женщина, здоровая мать – это
healthy woman, healthy mother is
я вас всех
the health of the nation. And of course, I invite everyone to this sanatorium, and I'm open to your questions. I think our colleagues will listen to you. Dear colleagues, let me give the floor to Anna Vasilets, president of medical groups on medical tourism, the Atlas of Health, vice president of the International Union of Women.
Дорогие коллеги, добрый день.
Dear colleagues, good afternoon. I am happy to greet you all at our roundtable, and I'm going to talk a little bit about tourism here, medical tourism after the pandemic. And medical tourism became one of the spheres that was hit one of the hardest during the pandemic. All the closed borders, all the health scares led to the huge decrease in the number of medical tourisms. And right now we need to start working on recovery, and we need to use the break that we have right now in order to increase the quality of medical services provided to foreign citizens. The quality is very important. Hospitals are now fighting for patients that can both basically get medical services in anywhere. And in order to attract them, we need to provide high quality of medical services. Russia in 2021 showed good results for developing medical tourism. So when we talk about the indicators before the pandemic, the market growth was 20.1%. However, during the pandemic, the results of the export of these services were at 40%. And today, the priority services are the working with oncological patients and eco medicine, as well as the looking for after pregnant women. And the foreign clients are also want to get dentist services from us as well. To regions of Russia, Moscow, and so on, we have more patients from Ukraine, 40%, Uzbekistan, 33% Azerbaijan, 26% in Armenia, 22%. We have also seen this trend that for today, we are receiving patients not only from CIS and Eastern Europe, but also from Arabian countries. This says that Russia has prospects to get a big share of the medical tourism market, but the requirements for medical organizations, they transform when we are starting to expand our services. We need not only improve the quality, but also need to talk about the costs of medical services. At the moment, the barriers for providing quality services are five. First is the language barrier. Second is the issue of transporting patients before and after the provision of medical services, as well as all the travel arrangements, including the customs and so on. And I want to say that working in this medical service sphere for over 10 years and having visited over 50 years, I can say openly that Russia has all the prospects for active work in this market. And we should not forget about the quality of services that we provide to foreign patients and the image of our country in the foreign market. Thank you. And we are we think that what you said is actually quite impressive. And for us, it's very interesting and surprising because it's very good to hear that there are very high quality medical services provided in Russia. And the statistics show that there is a niche in providing medical services. There is a good possibility. So a few words. Pandemics has shown the strengths and weaknesses of the Russian healthcare. It showed the niches where we can accept foreign patients, and our main task now with regions and with the central part of Russia to develop these directions and to actively attract foreign patients, because it's a good contribution to the budget of the Russian regions. And now I give the floor to Chernogradskaya Elena Valerievna, Director of the Center of Movement Correction, Head of the Project National Culture and Ethnic Traditions of Improving the Health of the Sakha people in the author program at Rehabilitation Author.
Hello everyone, thank you for inviting me. The problem of the climate change and permafrost preservation covers the change in the lifestyle of the peoples in the Arctic zone and influences on their health and well-being. Life of the humanity is a factor of change, of climate change. 2019, the first news about coronavirus were the big problem, and then we had fires this year and last year. And let's talk about the consequences of the fires. This is an increase in soil degradation, and that will lead in changes in blood composition that will impact on in the functions of the organism. Soil degradation leads to waterlogging and has an impact on life of people. We want to draw attention to the problem of the adaptation to such conditions. We think that climate change decreases adaptations skills, and in other words, we have different rhythmic changes in nature. Before, people were managed to survive thanks to their adaptive skills, and
происходят под непосредственным влиянием эволюционного развития человечества.
Changes in nutrition are changing because of the evolution.
Чем кардинальнее изменение климата, в частности, вечной мерзлоты,
climate change and permafrost change, the bigger these changes are, the bigger changes in health of people and the change in diseases. Each nation has traditions in nutrition, and our nation also changed the nutrition traditions through ages. And I think we need to use the wisdom of our people living for ages on the permafrost. So we have a rehabilitation program that we present today.
контексте культурно-исторического наследия народа Саха. Какова наша позиция и практические шаги?
So what are our practical steps in this direction? Our work is based on rhythmic base and on the traditions of the Saha people. It has It includes gymnastics and massage, and to restore the rhythms of organisms, we use the natural elements like stones, bones, and all these materials have a great impact on organism. In this program, we have different author methods. For example, rehabilitation aero yoga for the purpose of correcting sensory and motor disorders and mental diseases, neuromuscular correction in disorders of deep muscle sensitivity, and violations of the movement. For neuropathological disorders, we have integrated football therapy and therapeutic gymnastics. The program is useful because it takes into account social and psychological and climatic features. The function of the organism consists of all organic rhythms within the motor rhythm, and it's determining the individuality of the person. The target group of our program are children and adults with motor pathologies, disorders after injuries, operations, neurosurgical and transplant operations. The work is aimed at the formation of sensory-motor perception, reduction of the level of sensory-motor disorders, and also speech disorders like aphasia and so this is a brief description of our program. If you're interested, you can have our contacts from the organizers, and thank you for your attention. Thank you very much. This is a very interesting direction, very important, since we have an increase in health problems of children, not just in the Republic, but in the whole Russian Federation. If you were included in our WhatsApp group, please share your slides. Thank you very much. Let me give the floor to Irina Pavlova Kolesnikova, a lawyer, narcological preventologist, chairman of the Yakovlevich Republican branch of Russian Public Organization for the Support of Presidential Initiatives Common Cause, expert of the Public Chamber of the Republic Sakha.
Good afternoon, our dear moderators and the guests and all the participants of this session. And I would like to ask the organizers to give me the possibility to turn on my presentation. I do not have the ability to do that.
Ага, все, благодарю. Так, видно ли экран с презентацией? Спасибо, дорогие девушки. Ну, сегодня мы действительно очень много...
So today we talked a lot about our female population in the Arctic territories, and there are quite a lot of challenges standing before us. In addition to this harsh climate, we need to raise our children to be motivators for our families so that our life in these conditions, harsh conditions, natural conditions, and territorial conditions will be easier. And today I would like to talk about that group of our population, men, without whom we cannot live and who cannot live without us. Because in one of the previous presentations said that women are the coach of family and for our people, and it's one of our tasks to motivate our family, our husbands, so that they could keep to a healthy way of life. But I'm going to talk more about the bad habits. So the main factors that form a healthy way of life, it's not medicine, it's not ecology or anything, but the main factor here is the way of life, 50% here. And in some other diagrams, it's shown that the impact of the way of life is up to 60%. And 50%, half of this is the use of alcohol and smoking, basically. So why am I talking about men? Because in the Arctic and in Russia in general, this issue is very acute. This is the issue of supermortality of men. And when we were talking with the Ministry of Health here about the health of men, they directly told us that our situation here is basically at a collapse level. And the lifespan of men in our regions is almost the same as in the least developed African countries and in the countries where there is war. And we do not need war here, and the men are just dying out here by drinking, smoking, and so on. And as the Minister of Healthcare of Russia said before, the main contribution to the mortality of our men is alcohol. And I want to say a little bit about the Arctic zones. The situation is even worse than in other parts of Russia. And here I want to show you this diagram. So why do they say supermortality of men of working age? Look at 2010. 60% of all deaths of in the Arctic was not from old age. 60% of men who should be providing for family, for raising their children, developing their country, 60% of these men, they die when they are working age. So why did they named my presentation resolving the issues? Because we in Yakutia resolved this issue at some level. From 2010, this mortality decreased by 15%, and now we have like 45% of men dying at this age. This is a positive trend, and it's like we can feel it, and many families feel it in their life because they have reached maybe some measure of peace, because their fathers are now with them, with their families, and are not lying in some drunken stupor somewhere. And we also need to say that in 2010, we started to implement the anti-alcoholic, anti-drinking policy. And you can see that previously the mortality was around stable. And after that, 2010, it started to decrease, because alcoholism is the worst thing that can happen. And here you can see the average lifespan of men in Yakutia, which has started to increase since 2010. And we can talk differently about many different things. Let's look at a different region in the Arctic, which also has a very, very bad situation. In 1990s, we were at the same level with Chukotka for lifespan of men in rural areas. And it was even more in Chukotka. And we have been there, and we have seen the situation there. There have been no limiting factors or anything compared to our republic, or where in our republic we have the promotion, the propaganda, and so on. And can you see that the average lifespan of men in our republic compared how it was in 1990 and how it is right now, well, in 2018. So in our region, the people, men, started to live like up to 67 years. And in Chukotka, this indicator dropped to 46 years. So at this age, when they should be like at the height of their lifespan, helping their families and so on, they just die. And this, we work directly with narcologists. We talked with doctors who talked like the really, really bad horror stories about Chukotka. One man will just drink and then kill each other and do like crazy things to each other. This is not just a degradation of population. This is basically dying off of population. So today, for Yakutia, we have 198 sober villages, and our federal experts showed that the number of sober settlements, villages, they increase, and the lifespan of men in rural areas increased by 2 years. And here I want to say that there has been a research in August of this year, and here in the Republic, those who do not drink at all is 43% of people, of population. Of course, the highest population group which doesn't drink alcohol is children, of course. So we have launched this project, a social project, where we, as you can see on this slide, the directions where we're working on, and we're being supported in our work with populations in villages. And so these are our partners of our project. It's the Moscow State University and the Agency for Developing the Far East, the Association Healthy Cities, Regions and Settlements, and we are working together with them to organize this work not only in the Republic but to export it to our neighboring regions. And there's a good field site is in Marja and then in other regions of the Republic. And thank you all for your attention. And we would like to have this kind of handsome man with us and who would be working to develop our country, to develop our families, to raise our children. And because of the degradation of our men population, we women have to take some of their responsibilities today. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Elena, for your beautiful presentation. And this is like a very good for us because until the May of 2011, we worked together in the Committee for Family Affairs, which work by providing state policy, exercising state policy, not only towards children and women, but for creating the healthy way of life for the whole population of Yakutia. And this was on the initiative of our first president of Yakutia, Mikhail Nikolaev. This started in 2000, in the year 2000. And then in 2010, we had the decree of the president on measures for preventing alcoholism in Yakutia. And this demographic indicator, thanks to this decree, we started to decrease the mortality. And I'm now preparing a report for the Ministry for the Development of the Far East, and we are working closely with the organization Healthy Cities because they want to translate our experience into the Western world as well, Europe, because our experience is unique. And the authority and the organization, the government body where you worked in, wasn't just like a collection of people. It was like something that was actually doing good. And thanks to the work of many people, we have received this great experience. And maybe I will ask you to participate in preparing this report. Thank you, dear colleagues. Angelika Yegorovna wants to say a little bit here. So everything that this committee was doing, thanks to the first chair of the committee, Bashadonova Anastasia, was in 1993 during the Mother Day in Yakutia, and only after 5 years after that, the Mother Day was started to be celebrated in Russia in 1998, and in 1999, Anastasia Nikolaevna, she's introduced the Day of Father in the Republic, and now we are trying to lobby the State Duma to introduce this Day of the Father on the federal level as well. So only in a few years, Bashadonova Anastasia did quite a lot. So now we want to give the floor to Anastasia Bashadonova. We're very happy to see you today. And all we have been talking about was started when you were the chair. of the committee. And now I want to give the floor to one of the most respected women of Yakutia who work for over 20 years in the Northern Forum, our legendary Anastasia Bashudonova.
Спасибо, дорогие коллеги.
Thank you very much, dear colleagues, women, participants of this roundtable. I congratulate you with the 30th anniversary of the Northern Forum and the third Northern Sustainable Development Forum. Can you hear me? So we talked about the health doctrine. In the Northern Forum Secretariat, this issue was discussed by the Canadians about alcoholism, drug addiction. So they said that our doctrine is the best. Because it talks not only about the health of a person, but about the environment and health relations. And this work continues, and we should continue it. The problems of the Arctic and their solution is the interest of us, people of the North. But also the government makes legislative projects in this field, and this is very pleasant for us. But for us, the health safety issues and education issues, family issues, preservation of the cultural things and infrastructure. In all these things, the role of a woman is vital. A woman gives birth to children and builds the population. Women transfer the culture, the traditions. What do we do from the morning to the night in the Arctic? We ensure the family well-being, husbandry. We sew, we buy clothes, we do washing, we do the upbringing of children. Until the marriage of the children, and then we transfer it to the grandchildren, and we have good relations with our neighbors. And our women not only do all of this, but also work, because we are educated women. And all these problems led to creating of a lot of different organizations in different places. Why do women unite in such organizations? Because it lets them to discuss these problems, to share their experience and ideas. Maybe someone is not able to create projects, but they do have an idea, and some can implement these ideas to the projects, and the results are gained. So the help for the talents, leadership is our today agenda. And I I wish you to have a great success in this field. I wish us to share your opinion and reach your goals. This is my third session today, and I see that some sessions had some generalized opinion without a focus on women. But in some places, people discuss the role of the woman in and this role is getting more and more important. And I would also say that how a woman should gain leadership. Does a woman have to be born a president to get to become a president? No, it's not necessary. It takes a lot of work. In Iceland, little island country, president was a very distinguished woman. In Finland, there were also female presidents. We had a lot of women ministers and governors, chairmen of Harumi Takahashi, Japanese governor for many years. Valentina Matviyenko, this is a great woman. Sarah Palin, governor of Alaska. Well, she didn't finish her work, but people chose her. Marina Kovtun, governor of Murmansk region. There are a lot of people like that, women like that. I don't even have time to list them all. Zoya Mironova, Zoya Novosилова, Valentina Matviyenkova. In Finland, by December of last year, the heads of all the 5 parties were women. Minister of Education, of Finance, and other ministers. Are they special? No, they're just like us. In America, people were surprised and about our educational system. They felt sorry about it. So education and culture preservation are such important things for our women. You have 1 minute left. I wish you all, dear colleagues, women, friends, please remember that women in the Arctic is the base of all life. And remember that, and please take care of yourself. You can't create this base without caring about yourself. My friends once told me, a woman should take care of herself. No one will take care of her except herself. So take care of yourself. only then we will have well-being in the whole world. And wish you all the best. Thank you very much, Anastasia Nikolaevna. This is a very interesting, dialogical speech. And let me give the floor to Vasilieva Galina Safronovna, candidate of Geography Sciences of the Northeastern Federal University.
Галина Сафроновна, микрофон включите, пожалуйста. Вас не слышно.
Доброе время суток, уважаемые.
Good time of day, dear participants of our sessions. We can see that the women have been cornered as usual at this very late time. So yeah, they should work during the day, and at night they should do the social work. Of course, the topic here is very topical, and I want to say that in 2020 it has been 5 years since the adoption of Beijing Declaration, and on the work to reach the equality of women. And our republic had a separate from Russia delegation of 5 people, including Vanzhdonova Anastasia. She was our leader at this delegation because she was heading the Committee for Family and Childhood, and we also had Albina Nikolaevna and 3 other members. And during this Congress, we talked a lot about women from indigenous people, not only from the north, but also the whole world. And their issues were quite well and illuminated there. And there has been an anniversary of the 5th anniversary of the resolution, UN resolution. And this resolution had the framework convention for climate change and for ensuring the equal rights and freedom for women in all countries of the world. And in October of this year, we have celebrated the 20th anniversary of the adoption by the UN Security Council of Resolution 2035, where they talk about the women and peace and safety and the role of women in preventing conflicts and regulating conflicts on all levels. So the questions that we're talking about today are very important and are especially important in these unsettling times with pandemics, COVID, and so on, with local wars and so on. And the role and place of women has been building for many centuries, and modern people who are free of religious and mythical frames can talk about this issue openly, not depending on their gender and so on. And women, especially in democratic countries, they have all their rights and they can choose their own path, as Bozhidonova Anastasia talked about just now, about the blazing their way through the glass ceiling. And in future, this will be available to all women, irrespective of where they live or where they're from. But we know that this wasn't like this all the time. In ancient times, there has been different views on women on women's life, which do not correspond to modern requirements. And if we talk about climate and our northern places, the social organization of the peoples of the Arctic is determined not only by the level of social development, by the environmental situation in the regions of our country. Changes in nature are accompanied by changes in spiritual life. Modern social economic state of indigenous people in the north is not like clear cut. There is a main viewpoint about the non-adaptability of these people to market economy and their inability to preserve traditional way of life in industrial society, the lack of competitiveness of their products and so on. And this all due to small numbers of production and the lack of transportation infrastructure, low level of modernization, lack of modern technologies for processing biological resources and raw materials. Of course, in recent times, there are new products appearing there, but there are only a few of them. It's almost like nothing. And this leads to other social issues in the north. And people already talked about that. This is the low quality of life, high level of unemployment, suicidal tendencies, alcoholism, especially in recent years, the alcoholism among women is becoming ever more pressing.
Тогда я уже тут все пропущу. Ну вот, скажу, что когда стране нужны только...
When the country only needs raw materials, natural resources, when people only think about profits and not future generations, it's very difficult to talk about not only about the restoration of justice, but also the indigenous people who live in their own land, consider them to be their native land. And this leads to many problems that in the regarding the environment at present. We understand that the humanity that all of this affects all the living organisms on the whole planet. And if we talk about women who live in the Arctic, more important is the relationship with the environment, and it is more important for them than for women who live in more civilized places. And we have talked about men were more about profit and other things like that, while the women looked at the environment as a resource for improving their quality of life and helping them in their life. And without the ability of women to adapt to extreme conditions, without their motherly relationship, humanity will not be able to survive. And in these large territories of the Arctic, the system of survival cannot be exist without women. So if there were no women in the north who created the everyday life, raised children, preserved them, was keeping the house warm, and so on, without this, we will not be able to survive in the north. It is why it's necessary to more deeply raise the question of the role and place of women in conditions, in these extreme conditions, and to try to improve their lot to make their life better, not talk about moving them from the north to some more civilized places, to take them away from their traditional way of life. It's impossible, and this should not be done. We already had this kind of experience in the 1960s, which ended badly. That is why it's necessary for them to create such conditions so that they could live in their on their land. For example, in Finland, like the reindeer herders live in those beautiful yurts, while our people live in those tents and so on. That is why we need to improve their quality of life, and this will help them a lot. I am from the north by myself. I grew up and lived in tundra in Nizhny, not in herd, reindeer herd, but in a worker settlement. But there were herders nearby. That's why I know how it is in the north. I wish you all, well, I wish for everything that we are doing now would result in proper work and proper results. Thank you very much, Galina Safronovna. You did talk about very important aspects and the women, the environment, and scientific approach to this. And now I want to give the floor to Tatiana Gogoleva, also a legendary woman, public figure, member of Women's Organizations of Yakutia. Татьяна Афанасьевна.
Пожалуйста, включите микрофон, Татьяна Афанасьевна, вас не слышно.
Слышно меня?
Can you hear me?
Здравствуйте, дорогие подруги.
Hello, dear friends. I missed you a lot. So glad to see you. And thanks to the new technologies, we have met friends from different parts of the world.
Продвигал Арктику, северное речное хозяйство, и Галина
So
Сафроновна.
I agree with
Легендарного героя, действительно геройски продолжает и экологические проблемы.
with things that have been mentioned today.
Первой начинала в республике вопросы предпринимательства. Человек с большим.
Galina was the first person to discuss issues of entrepreneurship. It was so glad to hear every one of you. I was glad to see Anastasia Nikolaevna, that we're talking about the international success of the women, despite all the difficulties and obstacles that women face. So the main goal of the woman is giving birth, and education has a really important role. I would like to talk about that, because how this online education will influence on the health, as Ida Afanasьевna said, the information that children perceive impacts very much on their vision. Sorun Malone was saying that we all are children of one motherland. and we need to how to preserve the nature, how to give birth to healthy children, how this lack of movement and online technologies influence on health. So with the delegation of women, we have been to Moscow on the Congress of Women, and we had very fruitful work. And today I see that we didn't have a big progress. We have the same issues as back then. They are still vital today, and probably they are permanent. And now we have this virtual world, and we can communicate from different parts of the world. And I think we should expand this and talk about socially vulnerable people. I was the head of Children Academy Polar Star with a lot of children from different parts of the Republic. And despite the luck of our Saha people,
Илья Егорович Винокуров, который спас наше...
Ilya Igorovich Vinokurov saved our Saha people from the hunger.
Стучал во все колокола.
In spite of the risk of losing his job.
Здоровый образ жизни, эта политика тоже начиналась в Якутии. И очень отрадно,
healthy lifestyle also started from Yakutia, and I'm very glad that Aysen Nikolaev continues these good traditions, and he proclaimed the 10 years of health, despite the fact that we have a health year.
Услышали крик души матерей.
I hope that medical workers will hear our voices, because we lack the medical workers of high qualification. And the medical aid to Yakutsk from the villages is very problematic. I think the Union of Women should discuss this issue on the high levels. Why do we have this lack of medical workers? Nikolai Ivanovich Sharin preserved the Sakha language, despite the law that there should be just one language in Russia. Today, our leadership and governments and political actors should preserve our people on the north, to prevent alcoholism, to save people from pandemic, to make people give birth without fears. And we are not the bad region. We are very proud that all the innovation starts in our region. It was very pleasant to listen to our friends from other regions. I was so glad to see and listen to everyone. I wish everyone health, to in order to solve the issues during this pandemic. Don't forget about the live communication. Remember, there are different diseases, not only COVID. We have vulnerable people that can't have expensive medical aid. I want this roundtable to cover these topics and include them in the resolutions. Please be healthy, be happy, love, and be loved. And Elena Kolesnikova was right that we are not women without the men. We can give birth without men. We can't upbring the children. So the union of women and union should be fruitful, and let it be the peace in the world. Thank you very much. This is such a great speech.
Действительно, вы задели самые острые вопросы.
Covered the most topical questions, and I ask you to write your suggestions in our WhatsApp group. And I would like to give the floor to the final speech. Ольга Валентиновна and Lena Stepanovna. To Tatiana Nikolaevna Zueva from Nenets Autonomous Region. Please welcome.
Слышно меня, да? Здравствуйте, дорогие.
Good time of day, dear friends, colleagues, women. I'm very happy to be with you today, and I know that we are all tired now, and it's very late in Yakutia, but I would like to draw your attention to a number of interesting questions, issues that I think you need to know about. First of all, my colleague from Severodvinsk said that our average lifespan is not 53, but 70 and 5. So maybe it's taking into account those who are emigrating or something like that, but it's 70 and a half years. A very important point that I wanted to talk about in the Arctic, among people who have adapted the protein fat exchange of elements, the food we are getting is like basically the same. The researchers are studying the issue and they give recommendations, but it's not getting to our practical life. In families, people eat the way they want to, but in schools, hospitals, and boarding schools, there are still norms in the north that have been made previously for the temperate regions of Russia. But we need to do everything to change these norms because they need to be adapted to the north. And then the federal law on tenders, number 44, which in faraway remote regions leads to the fact that children are not getting proper food because we cannot buy from the local producers. That is why for many years we are giving incorrect food to our children. And I think for remote regions, this law on tenders is not good.
Микрофон отключите, пожалуйста.
Теперь второй вопрос, на который я...
And the second issue that I want to talk about is the issue of immunity. And I know the issues of immunity quite well. That is why I can say that the immune response for our people is not starts to form only much later, not like as fast as for the people living in better regions. And yes, the researchers told us that yes, the immune response is late, and in May and June, these are like the two months when the immune system is the weakest for our people. And the third point is the Arctic medicines. When we talk about the Arctic medicine, we talk about it, but there are no changes. We have different dates for getting better after different diseases, and we have pneumonia and so on. The alveolar walls are much thinner for our people. That is why we have all these diseases, and we need to have a separate Arctic medicine. And I'm going to finish on this by saying this, and I think that with our help, we can actually move forward in resolving the health issues of our northern people. Yes, these are very important points that you have talked about. And even when we talk about Arctic medicine, I think that it should exist. And the norms and regulations that you have talked about that are for the temperate regions of Russia and they're not applicable to us, we think that they do need to be changed. And now I want to give the floor Lena Ivanova, and then the final word will be given to Olga Valentinovna. Dear colleagues, I think that we have reached the goal of our roundtable, and the existing issues have been mentioned. As Tatiana Afanasyevna and Lyudmila Safarovna told us, and there are new terms and new problems and many factors that we need to discuss in a more specific topic, because each topic has many different aspects. For example, what Tatiana Zueva talked about, for example, nutrition. For example, here in Yakutia, the quality of nutrition in our republic, in the Arctic regions of our republic, it depends on different factors, such as the important issue there is the northern supply. What is being delivered there is what is being bought. And that is why nutrition changes towards the different food that is completely different from what our ancestors ate by hunting and fishing. But now there are some federal prohibitions for getting food this way, and even this tugunok, the fish that is really widespread and which could be caught by anyone before, but now there are some regulations that prohibit just fishing this fish, and there are only specific times of the year when this can be done. And the people who are hunting are only allowed to hunt 1.5 kilograms of meat, and if it's more than that, then you are breaking the law. There are many issues at the moment, dear colleagues, and all this talk, especially considering concerning health, I think we need to make it more specific, and maybe we should talk about specific topics, such as, for example, specifically nutrition for the Arctic people, or it should be health of children in the Arctic. And yes, within the frames of this federal program on children in the Arctic, we could develop specific recommendations, not only for the regional, but also federal levels. So the topic is large and many different aspects of it have been talked about today. And now we need to work on each different issue in more detail. And on behalf of Yakutsk branch of the women's organization, I would like to thank the women who were here from Russian regions and the city of Yakutsk, and from the regions of our republic. I see there are representatives from at least 8 regions of the republic. Thank you very much for your interest to the topic of women in the Arctic, for not losing faith in us, in that we can reach a lot together. Thank you very much, Lena Stepanovna. And now I give the floor to Starostina Olga, head of the interregional organization Women of the Arctic. Thank you, Angelica. I want to thank all the participants of our today's roundtable, to Lena Stepanovna, to Angelica for organizing this event at a very high level. So the topics that we discussed today were very topical, and I also agree with Lena Afanasyevna that the topic is actually quite broad, and we should probably continue meeting on more specific topics. In Moscow, there is this Arctic Club of Women, and we opened this club for looking at very specific issues with the participation of regional representatives and federal representatives, including the deputies of the State Duma and members of the government of Russia and senators of the Council of Federation. And the topic on healthcare is quite large. That's why I propose for us to plan our work in more detail. We can organize these events in different regions, and we can organize them online, and we can organize it at our Moscow Arctic Women's Organization, and we can have specific recommendations for nutrition, for Arctic medicine, for the way of life. So the proposals that we received from our public figures, they are very good actually. And if we do not talk with each other, if we do not talk on a regional level, there is nothing we can talk about on a federal level. We need specific recommendations and proposals on the federal level to our government, to the leaders of our regions. See what a positive experience Yakutia has. So when I visited Yakutia, you can see like there's so many positive things that you can get from Yakutia. Lifespan is increasing. People are less prone to drink alcohol, and this is the health of women, children, and men as well. That is why I propose to create a specific plan of work on specific topics with the involvement of all interested parties, including representatives of a federal government And from our side, we need to have specific proposals, clear proposals on respective topics. And I propose to include into the resolution the issue. When I was listening to presentations, there were presentations with very good statistics and analysis, so that the federal statistics bodies would pay attention to separate statistics on the Arctic regions and indigenous people. So let's put this proposal forward on the federal level. Without statistics, we will not be able to analyze anything. And our difficulty is that we do not have research. We cannot move forward in our work. We talk a lot. Some people say that we talk a lot and there are no specific results, but I do not agree with this. This can be difficult, but our recommendations are listened to. There were some maybe overreaction, for example, in the healthcare system when the doctors are being laid off. But when the results of this reform were looked at, then the government started to understand that no, this was wrong. And now they started to restore the previously existing medical stations and so on. Quality of medicine is the quality of medicine in regions, in locations. Women should not have to move several kilometers to different settlements to give birth. For example, in Arkhangelsk, they have to move like 300 kilometers from some settlements in order to give birth. But previously, there were like nurseries and medical centers for giving birth previously. So we analyze all the proposals that we received from our women and we put them forward on a federal level. So once again, thank you all for your presentations and good luck to you all. Thank you. Thank you very much, Olga Starostina. We do have the Arctic Moscow Club, which I participated in, and a big thank you to you. There were representatives of 9 Arctic regions of Russia, and we also talked there about putting forward united proposals for the federal authorities. And take into account your recommendations, your proposals, we're going to put forward recommendations for governmental bodies to provide free vaccination for children, to ensure the participation of public organizations in independent expertise of medical health care, to have a targeted development of dialogue with specialists, with doctors, with non-commercial organizations to support the project development, project activities. We will also put proposals forward to local governments to work with psychological services for children's welfare, to take an active part in public discussions of federal and regional laws. We are doing lots of progress, but there are still painful points which are still there. And yes, you were right, we need to talk specifically about different topics, like if nutrition, then it's nutrition, healthy way of life, then healthy way of life, and so on. And as Lena Stepanovna proposed, we will prepare this project and we'll send it to our group. And you have left us all your contact details. And when we send these proposals, if you have any proposals from your own side, you should add it to this recommendations draft and send it back to us. And this roundtable was really good. And despite our spread across different time zones, we have all these people today, and with the support of the Northern Forum and the Ministry of Foreign Relations of Yakutia, we organize this very important event. Northern Forum is a large forum where many constructive dialogues have been organized, and one of these dialogues is our roundtable Women of the Arctic, and we hope that our recommendations will be included into the resolution of the Northern Forum and will continue at the Eurasian Women's Forum, and we will meet once a year and we'll look at our resolution, what has been done and what has not been done yet, and we will try to get all the issues resolved for the Arctic, for Russia, and the world. Thank you all very much. Please turn on your cameras. We will have a general photo.
Хотя бы самые стойкие сегодня мы сфотографируемся. Ну, может, люди уже спят. Раз, два, три. Раз, два, три. Раз, два, три. Все. И давайте все друг другу помашем и пожелаем самое главное крепкого здоровья и удачи.
Good health to you all and much luck to you and success.
Привет Оленьку, самому дальнему нашему району северному. Я скучаю по Оленьку.
Ждем в гости. Ненецкий автономный округ, мы обязательно к вам приедем. Вы тоже, пожалуйста, к нам приезжайте.